يا ربي صل على محمد.
You said that when Dajjal was released in a day which is like a year, he was released in the island of Tamim ad-Dari, and you say that that island is Britain. But the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam pointed 20 times to the east. That Dajjal will come from the east, and Sheikh, Britain is in the west. Didn't you study geography? So this question is being posed again and again, even though I did give a response to it. So I guess I'm going to just have to keep on repeating the answer again and again, my answer, of course. But let me say one more time, I don't know how many times I must say it, that whenever I give an opinion, whenever I express my view, whenever I interpret, I don't want you to accept my opinion. I don't want you to accept my view. I do not want you to accept my interpretation unless and until you are convinced that it is correct. Those are dangerous students who will accept everything that I say without first critically examining. And you must also listen to the views of my critics, people who have different opinions from me. And when you have studied the subject and you are convinced that I am correct, only then should you accept my view. So now let's turn to the hadith of Tamim ad-Dari, which is in Sahih Muslim, in which the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said that when Dajjal is released, he'll live on earth for 40 days. And the first thing we must recognize is 40 days does not always stand for 40 days as we know a day. 40 days do not always stand for 40 days as we know a day. That's the first thing you must learn. Someone asked the Prophet ﷺ, which was the first masjid to be built? He said the Kaaba. And then they asked which was the second masjid to be built. And he said Masjid al-Aqsa, Jerusalem. And then he asked how many years, how much time elapsed between the two. He said 40 years. 40 years. But no, we know that the time which elapsed between the one built by Ibrahim alayhi salam and the one built by Sulaiman alayhi salam must have been 1,000 years or more. But he said 40 years. And so now we have to understand that sometimes these numbers are given. These numbers are given as figures of speech, not to be understood literally. Having said that, Dajjal will live on earth for 40 days. One day which will be like a year, one day which will be like a month, and one day which will be like a week. And the rest of his days like your days. So please don't tell me that you're going to take away 3 from 40 and come out 37, huh? And the rest of the days will be 37 days. Do not do that. We said that when he was released in a day which is like a year, the hadith of Tamim ad-Dari is that he's going to be released on an island. If you say the island is in the Persian Gulf, or you say the island is in the Mediterranean Sea, or you say the island is Singapore, well then, what I expect of you is that you will back up your claim by providing the evidence to support your thesis that this is the island. I have offered my opinion that the island is Britain, and I have provided substantial evidence substantial evidence to support my claim that the island is Britain. But this is the release of Dajjal. Dajjal is in chains, and the chains are removed, so he is released. And I say that he was released in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. Otherwise, how could the Prophet ﷺ said that it is possible that Ibn Sayyad is Dajjal? How is it possible that the Prophet ﷺ could say that perhaps Ibn Sayyad, a Jewish boy in Medina, is Dajjal? Huh? He didn't say he is Dajjal. He did not say that. He said if he is Dajjal, then, and if he is not, then. So it's possible. The only way he can say that it is possible is if Dajjal is no longer in his chains. He has now been released. But the hadith also speak about the khuruj of Dajjal. And the khuruj is something else. The khuruj of Dajjal will take place after a certain number of events have taken place. For example, the hadith of Sahih Muslim, that there will first be the Umran of Baytul Maqdis, Jerusalem flourishing, or Baytul Maqdis flourishing, or Al-Quds flourishing, whichever name you want, meaning center stage in the world. And at that time, Yathrib or Medina is in a state of desolation, kharab. And then comes the next, and that is the khuruj of the Malhama, the Great War. And today we are at that point in time where Jerusalem is flourishing, Medina is a backwater, is a desolation, and now we are waiting for the Great War to start. That's where we are now. But the khuruj of the Malhama is going to lead to the Fathul Constantiniya. That Constantinople is going to be conquered after the Great War. So that is an event which is to come. And then after the Fathul Constantiniya, only then do you have the khuruj of Dajjal. So don't mix up the two. The khuruj of Dajjal is when he appears in human form. And at that time you'll see him as a Jew, and as a young man, and powerfully built, and curly hair. And I used to always think that this is curly hair, until a student of mine came from Egypt. And he pointed out to me, no, there's something in the Torah about wearing the curls at the side. And that is what the Prophet is talking about, the curls that the Orthodox Jews wear at the side of the face. That is the curls that Dajjal will have, not curly hair. And so it is when Dajjal khuruj comes, at that time he's going to come from the east. 20 times the Prophet pointed in the direction of the east. But his release and his khuruj are two different events. This one is Britain, and that one is the east. And yes, Imran Husin did study a little bit of geography in school.